Hi, my name is Liz Hathaway and this is my astrological look at the week ahead, and that is the week starting Monday the 25th of January 2020. So what's on the agenda? What's on the menu for this week? It was a great week last week, I have to say. That inauguration, I think I called it the peaceful transition last week. Well, it was a peaceful transition. It had some amazing moments. It was interesting as an astrologer to see all the speculation around the Mars-Uranus conjunction, what was going to, what would it evoke on the day, if you like. And so I kind of had my computer running and watching it live on CNN. And it was really interesting at the moment, for example, that Mars-Uranus became, conjunct with the ascendant. That was the moment that Lady Gaga hit in this really incredibly bright red Martian dress, because red is the colour of Mars, right? I mean, she arrived on the stage there and, give her rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. So that was Mars-Uranus in a way. There was one other moment actually when Kamala Harris came down the stairs. I don't know if any of you were watching it, where she almost stumbled. I thought, oh, Mars-Uranus, here we go. But she managed to correct that sort of little trip up there on those stairs, because those stairs, coming down those stairs in heels, which a lot of the women were doing, seemed to me like the absolute, worst sort of Mars-Uranus scenario, because it could have happened, couldn't it? Venus has been this planet that rules Taurus, so it's about looking good and heels look good. But that stairway that they had to come down, that was dodgy, I thought. Anyway, what's happening this week? We're not completely done with Uranus. It's still very much in the picture. Sun is in Aquarius, and on Tuesday we get the Sun-Uranus square. It's an interesting square. I kind of know this square personally. My son is born under a Sun-Uranus square, tight square as well in his case. And I always felt with him, as a parent, that he was always one step ahead of me. He was very bright, very, he undertook all kinds of unexpected things, and he always seemed to be that step ahead of me. I always felt like I was behind him, correcting things, but never able to really see it coming. It's got a disruptive element to it, the Sun square Uranus, but it also has an outspoken quality, certainly with the Sun in Aquarius, right? It has an outspoken quality, but it also has this sort of visionary quality. I mean, we could think of people, like, for example, Thomas More, the 16th century philosopher who wrote Utopia, this idea of, what the perfect society could look like if there was no greed, if there was no selfishness, if there wasn't, that sort of material, gain being on the top of the agenda. But we could also look at someone like Emanuel Swedenborg. Swedenborg was a Swedish mystic. And I mean, he had some very controversial ideas, for example, about heaven and hell. He felt that God was love and that, everyone would go to heaven. That was the plan. That was the idea, which in an age which, the idea of your sins would find you out and you'd be cast into the fiery pit was very much the dominant narrative. You can imagine how controversial his ideas were. He also was very into the idea of angels and these sort of beings that were almost like intermediaries between us and God, and this sort of this higher mind. So we can get people, or a more modern version of Sun in Aquarius square Uranus would be also Uranus in Taurus, by the way, is someone like Germaine Greer. Who can be very outspoken. And I mean, she often runs foul of the press because some of her comments recently on transgender or on rape, for example, she speaks her mind, but she can create waves and she can create, ultimately, sort of conversation and debate and heated conversation even. But there's that quality with Sun-Uranus. There's energy to it. There's drive to it. There's force to it. Another more recent example, but particularly as well, of Uranus, Taurus, Sun in Aquarius would be the artist Giger, who designed the Alien. What a strange world he inhabited. His art is coming from somewhere completely different, this other realm almost of the weird and wonderful. And I think also one of the 70s period, when we also had a Uranus Sun square, was when David Bowie was in Berlin, and he was producing this electronic music, this weird sounds that were coming out there. So it's an interesting square, that Sun-Uranus square. It's disruptive, but it's also creative. It's risk-taking, it's dynamic, it's like heart and mind. Uranus is the higher, the Sun is the heart. Hearts and minds are not in agreement here. There's a sort of clash, Also, it's very freedom-seeking, and there can be conflicts of interest where your freedoms conflict with my freedoms, these conflicting views. But ultimately, Sun square Uranus raises consciousness. It makes us aware of new possibilities. It takes us out of the realm of the known, if you like. On Wednesday, we have the moon is in Cancer opposite Venus. And we also this week on Thursday have Venus conjunct Pluto. Venus conjunct Pluto, it's unaspected, but again, it has, the quality, as did Mercury when it conjuncted Pluto, it has that quality of depth to it. It is also kind of almost like the fond farewell, to the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, because it's in and around that degree. It's sort of as the vaccine is rolled out, even though we're still, I in my opinion, with so many planets in fixed signs, we're going to be dealing with COVID for a while yet. But there's something of a farewell feel to Venus, I think, conjunct Pluto. This can be on a very literal level, that we are saying farewell to a phase of our life, something is closing. But there's always with Venus that feeling of tenderness and love and close to the heart. Whereas with Pluto and Capricorn, it's that feeling of endings, that feeling of farewells, that feeling of, if you like, of Hades. It's almost like that voyage into the underworld, isn't it? To try and reclaim something, treasures within. But it's a really, look where it falls in your chart, because it can take you into the depth. And Venus has always as well that connection to passion, but also to treasure. So this might be hidden treasures in the underworld, which we can discover and find, personal journeys, intense sadness possibly as well, with the moon in Cancer at the same time, plus Min the day before, opposing Pluto, moon in Cancer. On Friday, it feels, to my mind, a little bit more expansive in a sort of a freed up sort of way. We have Sun conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter enlarges everything. It wants to big it up, if you like. So there is this feeling here, despite all the difficulties that we are still facing. I mean, here in the Netherlands, we've now got a curfew, so people are unable to go out after 9 in the evening, etc. Fortunately, I have a dog, so I can go out and play still with my dog if I want. But you know what I'm saying? It's a kind of a strange time. But Sun conjunct Jupiter is saying to us, what can you learn from it? What kind of new things are you doing? What are you engaging with? How are you stretching your mind? I mean, I'm personally at the moment doing a sort of tarot, creating a sort of tarot pack for myself, learning, how to work with colour and shape and engage with other people who are sharing that interest and passion for tarot. So it's kind of, I'm using the Crowley deck, which combines astrology with the tarot. And it's just really interesting to look at the cards in a different way and to talk to other people. So it's about meeting up. It's about sharing ideas. It's about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, I think, as well. Jupiter always has that feeling of height, as does Aquarius, that feeling of looking beyond. And with that Sun square Uranus earlier on in the week, that's visionary quality. that challenge to look further ahead. So all in all, I think it's an interesting week. Mercury going retrograde then on Saturday, which, quite late in sign. Mercury going back, it's going to go right back into the sort of Uranus territory. So it's kind of, again, it's that inner looking quality that Mercury can have when it's retrograde. It's not all about computer failures or post not arriving. It's about the willingness to turn inward and to focus on, kind of ideas and thoughts or areas within ourselves where we have conflicting voices about things, to sit with them and explore them. A lot of planets in fixed signs at the moment. So we have to learn to sit with things. We have to learn to focus on things, notice things, observe, and also to keep the faith and keep the vision alive. Okay, that was my view of the week. Have a good one. Thank you for listening. Bye.